Love it. Very nice. Need
All
to play this in the
right.
background while I'm working.
Nice, nice. There we go. All right, there we go. So, folks, welcome to the Ellington Place webinar. So, my name is Jeff Ervick with Valorous Capital Partners. With us today, we got Danny Galvin from Galvin Capital, Robert Reitzenholler from REM Capital. We're going to show you guys what we have here today, which is Ellington Place Tower. So, it is a development opportunity in St. Petersburg, Florida. With our projections, we're estimated to achieve for a 35% IRR and a 3.13x multiple with our returns while we build this beautiful luxury condominium, or I guess you say apartment complex in St. Pete, Florida. So without further ado, before we go through, I have to go through a disclaimer, right? So this is a 506c offering, so you have to be an accredited investor. But everything we do say here, everything we look at is going to be for projections or estimates. Please consult your tax, legal, and financial advisor for any questions you might have regarding this or any other investment. And this is not an investment. This is an SEC regulated opportunity, and we are excited about this as well too. So again, any questions you have for any legal, tax, or financial advice, please go to your professionals. All right, with that, so we're going to get going here into this. So first off, Robert, I'm going to let Robert introduce himself. Robert, why don't you go ahead and tell the folks here who you are.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Good to be here, guys. And thanks for joining us on this lovely Tuesday evening. Appreciate you guys taking a little time out. So a little bit about myself. I've been in the corporate real estate world for about 20 plus years. I think you stop counting after 20, just doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. And I grew up in construction. So I actually thought I was going to take over my dad's business. He said, no way, go do something else. I got my finance degree, got back into real estate, been there ever since. Currently have a portfolio of about 4,000 units spread around the country, mostly value add. We're kicking off some development deals here. Just feel like the timing is right to get that piece of the business built up. And excited to share with you guys a little about this deal here in St. Pete, which happens to be in my backyard because I live in the Tampa Bay area. So very excited about that as well. A little extra bonus.
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. So next up, we got Danny Galvin from Galvin Capital. Danny, give us a little bit intro for yourself.
Absolutely. So Danny Galvin, founder and CEO of Galvin Capital. I'm a little, first of all, I've been doing deals with Rob for the last, 5+ years on the value add side. But how we structure our real estate company is, we've acquired self-storage, we've diversified a little bit into RV parks, industrial, flex space, triple net. So we're very, very well diversified in the commercial real estate realm. But our foundation has always been multifamily value add. Being able to either sell or refinance within year 3. But no, Robert and I have been partnering up on deals for the last 5+ years on the value add side. And naturally, since we do like to diversify, my wife and I, that she helps run the company, we felt it was time to get involved in our first, Class A multifamily development. And what better place to do it than St. Pete? Because we have a second home in Tampa. We own and operate multifamily in Lakeland, Florida, and Naples. So we're huge fans of the Florida market. Especially, we're going to dive into this, in this webinar, but especially the St. Pete area and what is happening there and where it will be in 5 years, Jeff. So that's probably why you joined us as well. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So excited to partner with you both. And I'll give a little intro for Valorous Capital Partners. So it's myself, Jeff Ervick, Claudio Sanchez, Ritesh Patel, Jim Bone, and Paul Andman. So we are a team of professionals. We've gotten into real estate in various different forms and fashions. We own and operate close to 8 properties right now, 1,377 doors under assets under management and development. Roughly about 150 million of assets under management and development as well. And right now we're really focusing on value add and also development. We're also in another couple of deals with Danny regarding some flex industrial and so forth as well. So we're really excited about the space. We see that the opportunity to be able to build and develop and diversify into a ground up development like this in this market is definitely right on point for where we are. I believe we're in a perfect position right now to bring this asset online in a year and a half, right? So very excited about it. Our team is just firing all 8 cylinders, and we're not stopping anytime soon. So I'm going to go through and introduce a couple other team members. We got Bruce, Madeline, and Tim from Winden Capital Partners. Bruce has over 30 years experience in the lending business, owned and operated a bunch of different lenders, specifically in the multifamily business. Then he said, you know what, I'm tired of lending to multifamily investors to make a bunch of money. I want to be a multifamily investor making a lot of money. So he decided to move on into this role, and we're excited to have him on the place. So he's very detail oriented when it comes down to the lending side. So utilizing him and his background for construction lending for this type of opportunity is perfect, fits with him perfect. Then we got Aisha Khalid. Aisha is a doctor. She's a ear, nose, and throat surgeon up in the Massachusetts area. She owns and operates Apex Multifamily Capital. Right now, they are currently into roughly 650 units of LP and GP, over 40 million of assets under management. And her group are just phenomenal. They bring so much to the table. We're so excited to have them on the team as well. Next, we have Arut Zavari and John Jimenez. They're both seasoned professionals and entrepreneurs in their own right in different aspects all throughout the investment side, and very hungry in the multifamily side as well too. So we brought them into the team. They bring a lot of good extra value to the team through it as well too. And then we have Kevin and Will Heath. So they own Lux Capital with 27 years of experience in his extensive background in pre-deployment screening and vendor management. He has scaled his business to where it runs automatically now. So he is looking to diversify himself into different properties and projects as well. So we're excited to have these guys on the team. They're dynamic duo, dad and father and son. And then what I'm really excited about, guys, what today is mostly going to talk about is my man Michael T. Fox, right? So Michael J. Fox, Michael T. Fox, right? Mike Fox is a phenomenal construction general contractor in St. Pete. He lives in St. Pete. He builds multiple different commercial construction, and we brought him on the team to be our owner's representative to help out and to guide all specific initiatives regarding construction. So anything from to selecting our final vendor, which we're in the process of doing as well too for the construction, dealing with the general contractor as a PM. Him and his team are stacked when it comes down to building and managing the building of multifamily complexes. So Mike has a very unique background. Some of his feature projects were Cambria Hotel, the Arundel Preserve, Howard Hughes Medical Center, and then, went a little too far. And then for the Fox Building Group, you can see here some highlights they've done. I'm going to kind of take a little bit of time and talk about this, guys. I think it's very important that everybody understands who is going to be the team, right? And also specifically in the contracting on the construction side of the team. So they've also done the residences at Annapolis Junction, which is up here in Annapolis, Maryland, near my hometown. 383 unit wood frame Texas donut style apartment with 400 parking spaces, not a small project. So he's been involved there. Another 365 unit wood frame apartment complex as well. Multiple different commercial entities that he's built in the from senior living to stormwater management to also Bausch and Lomb in Tampa. And then his team is what brings a lot of value to it. Josh Fry is a superintendent for him. Josh has experience building a 66-story skyscraper with 391 residents in the tallest building south of New York City for $335 million of total budget. So Josh brings a ton of experience to the team with regards to tall story building. So that's why I want you guys to really take note at is that his team that Mike has built around him has so much construction experience that we're so excited to have him on the team. So another 8-story he built, hotel, 252 unit hotel, another new construction of an 80 unit 5-story building in Florida as well. And then Edward Lapizzo is their project manager. So he's built a Marriott, 46 million. He built new construction of an 8-story, 252 unit hotel. So you guys can see, there's even more after this, just so you're aware too. So they've got other team members, Zach Zorak, who's got tons of experience, specifically with building apartment complexes as well. So again, as you can see, this will be shared out as well too. We're super excited for Mike Fox and his team to be a part of this deal. So I'm going to keep on going here a little bit before I pass it off. I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing me talk. I'm going to pass it off here to Robert. But our table of contents, what we're going to deal with today, we're going to have the executive summary, go over the business plan. Danny's going to dive into the location of the market. I'll talk about some property details. Robert's going to dive into financials, talk about the timeline, and how to get in touch with us as well too. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Robert, and he's going to talk about the property story and where we came about getting this baby. Robert, take it away, bud.
Whoops, helps to take myself off mute. It's always fun to talk to yourself. Anyway, thanks for the intro, Jeff. Appreciate it. I think the key element here, aside from the fact that we're building a pretty cool project in St. Pete, but I think the key element here, honestly, is just there's a lot going on in Florida. As I mentioned before, I live in the Tampa Bay area, and every time I drive through St. Pete, I keep saying to myself, this is going to be the next Miami. You can just see it happening before your very eyes. And the irony for that, for me, is that 20 years ago when I moved to Florida, I remember going to Miami saying, one day I'm going to build a project in Miami. And you got to be a pretty big shot to build stuff in Miami. I feel like now you don't need to go to Miami because St. Pete's going to be the next Miami. So I think there's going to be a lot of continued opportunity. We're seeing that just at a high level. And we've got a slide in here on it. There's a multi-billion-dollar development project going on with the re-signing of the baseball team in St. Pete. So there's a lot of cool stuff. But anyway, a little bit on the backstory for this particular property. We've got a interesting scenario where we purchased. Well, I had this lot in my sights, came on the market, didn't get it in time, went under contract with somebody else. I called the broker anyway, said, hey, where are we at? What's the deal? Kind of hit it off. Good guy. And he said, listen, if anything happens, I'll call you back. So it's about a year later, he calls me back and he says, Robert, guess what? It's back on the market. And I said, man, that's awesome. I'll take it. So we put it under contract, and it's kind of a cool piece of property because it sits right next to the interstate. There are two interstates that kind of drop into St. Pete, and they sort of border the north and south side of the sort of the main downtown area. But anyway, so as you're coming off the interstate, you will see this building. So it's pretty cool from a exposure standpoint too. Anyway, so we got under contract. All of the entitlement work was done prior to us getting it under contract. The prior potential buyer, want to be buyer, they spent about $500,000 to get the entitlements done. That's a lot of work and it takes time. So it's kind of nice that they did that. And at this point, it's also kind of nice that they didn't get the final permits approved because they were, at least from my kind of review of their information, they weren't what I would consider operators. They were more investors. And so some of the things that they put in their application are not the most beneficial from an operation standpoint. And obviously, we look at it from, hey, we own this building. We're going to manage it. How does it work? So it actually kind of worked out great. We're going to go back to the city of St. Pete, make a couple of tweaks, really upgrade the building and make it what we want it. And that's part of the sort of phase one of this project is close the land, get the entitlements, get the permits, construction ready to go. And then we'll move on from that. So that's kind of the backstory on the property. As far as the actual location, this particular property is in the path of progress. As I mentioned, there's two major interstates that drop down into St. Pete. This is the north side one. We're right in a major medical hub. So we've got tons of medical facilities, lots of high income jobs, not to mention all the education and banking and finance and insurance and manufacturing and everything else that's going on. But it's just a really good area. We are also seeing in this particular purchase some built-in equity. And the reason for that is because our cost per unit, which is how you value these development deals typically, is about half of what we purchased on the other lots that we own down the street. Now, granted, the construction permits are not done, so there's some reason for that, but we're getting it at a nice basis, which is also, an extra bonus. It's a beneficial thing. So we've got some built-in equity there. The other thing I want to mention that really I think plays into where things are going in St. Pete is we've seen tremendous rent growth. Now, we've seen a lot of rent growth across the country. We've seen a lot of rent growth. I think one of the important factors to know, especially given the last couple of years, is that when the overall market in the country went negative for absorption, Florida actually as a state never went negative. And St. Pete is actually one of the top markets in the state of Florida. So I mentioned that because I've had a lot of people ask about absorption rates and, hey, you're doing development, there's a lot of new supply, blah, blah, whatever. I get it. It's a valid concern. Florida actually never went negative from an absorption standpoint. And like I said, St. Pete's one of the best markets in the state. So I think we're building into a market that has very strong demand, is not oversupplied, although oversupply is relative to the demand in the market. The other thing I want to mention too, there's a lot of condo development in St. Pete, similar to Miami. A lot of condo development, a lot of demand for condo development. And so that also means that you don't have as much rental product in St. Pete. And I feel like there's a real need for, I'm going to call it affordable in quotation marks because it's still, $2-3 grand a month. But I feel like there's a real need for affordable rental product in St. Pete. And again, that's where this product is meeting the demand in the market. So you can go to the next slide, Jeff. So a couple things on the underwriting and the financing, just so you kind of have an understanding of how we did this. So on our initial underwriting right now, we're modeling a 65% loan to cost for our senior debt. That's been one of the biggest challenges in the market, is that senior lenders on development deals are very hesitant because of the new supply in the market, because of the high interest rates. It's really tough to get things to pencil. So we're assuming a 65% loan to cost. I think that's fairly achievable. Again, St. Pete's a great market. We're also planning on refinancing this into an agency fixed rate product at stabilization. Now, just because we're going to do that doesn't mean that we're going to keep it forever. We could, but we want to basically put a long-term low interest fixed rate debt on the building once we've stabilized it, so that there's a easy assumption for somebody who's coming in behind us to assume that debt and to purchase the property at a really good cap rate. The other thing that I want to mention is that we're assuming a 4.5% exit cap within 5 years. Now, some people say that's absolutely nuts. How in the world could you possibly project that? Well, again, remember, this is not your typical market. St. Pete is a very competitive market. A lot of people trying to get in. Things were trading in the low 4 caps up until a couple months ago. They probably still are. And so that's a very realistic cap rate in the market. Now, again, you could say, well, hey, what if interest rates don't come down? Absolutely. I don't think 4.5 caps going to stay forever if the interest rates don't come down. We believe they will. And we're just basing that on the Federal Reserve's comments that they're going to lower rates about 2 points over the next 2 years. So that is modeled into our underwriting. The other thing we're assuming is an 18-month lease period, 12 months to our first CO. We're going to do a temporary CO so that we can start leasing. That helps with the overall cash flow of the property. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to assume an agency takeout at stabilization with a 125 debt service. Sometimes that goes up and down. So again, we can kind of model different things there, but that's what we're assuming here. And then I made a comment here about in-house construction and project management. It's really in-house project management for better cost controls and tighter oversight. And that's what Jeff mentioned with bringing in Michael Fox. Super sharp guy, great team. Really like their experience and also their attitude. So we're super happy to have them on board. And again, this is something that, you know, you can do as an owner. It doesn't mean that you can't, but it's a full-time job. Well, I shouldn't say the full-time job. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. So very excited to have Michael on board to help us out with that. Go ahead, Jeff. Okay, so just to break this down for those of you who are a little bit newer to the development space, there are different phases to how we do it. Now, everybody might do it a little bit differently, but there are different phases to how we do this. And hang on one second, I just realized my battery is about to die, so let me plug this in. So phase one, which we're talking about immediately right here now, is the land purchase. Now, in this case, the land is already entitled, so we're going to go through and do construction plans and permits. That takes about 6 months, and the main challenge or risk is city approval timing. Normally, the plans are pretty straightforward. We are going to go back and ask for a facade change. That could trigger a reapproval by the city board, which takes a little bit of time to get on the board, the docket. It may not. We're actually requesting something that I think everybody's going to agree is a much nicer facade. So I don't think it's going to have to go back through the full DRC review, but we'll see. So that's phase one. Phase two is where we get into construction. So in this case, we're going to build the building. We're going to lease it up. Construction is about 18 months. Lease up is about 18 months. There's some overlap there, but that's kind of phase two. Now, there's a certain amount of capital that's required for the development phase. We will probably need to come back and raise some additional capital for that construction loan, depending on where the market's at and kind of how things are shaping up. And that'll be towards the end of the year. So right now we're going to close on the land, and then we'll come back towards the end of the year if we need additional capital, and we'll put that into the deal. My expectation is that things are going to improve from the lending standpoint between now and the end of the year. So I don't anticipate that's going to get worse. If anything, it'll probably get a little bit better. But again, we don't know. And the big challenge there is just financing and construction delays. Financing meaning, you know, making sure we can get the construction loan, and then construction delays really comes into play in Florida with regard to hurricane season, which runs from May to end of May to November. So we try to time things from a construction standpoint, especially with something like this, where we're not trying to pour concrete and we're, you know, going to get a hurricane or a tropical storm or something like that, because that can obviously set us back a period of time. All right, you can flip to the next one. So phase 2B in this case, and then we did 2A and 2B only because it's a little bit different. 2B is we've got an additional 2 buildings that we're going to add to this portfolio at the end of the day. Now, initially, we were just going to buy the 1 lot, but we realized that we've already got these other 2 lots ready to go that we had bought previously, and we were going to start with one of them. Well, when the current phase 1A, or I guess phase 2A, if you will, came on the market, that is by far the best place to start these projects, because it's got a 16-story tower, it's got a rooftop pool, it's where your amenity package starts. So what we're going to do is we're going to build that. We're going to go right across the street. We're going to build 146 units. And then if we're completed with that and we still want to go further, we've got another 74 units that's just down the street in the Edge District that we have the ability to build on too. Now, we may sell those lots. In fact, right now we're under contract to sell that 74 unit plot because we feel like it's not as congruent to the new layout of the project, but we do have the ability to do that, assuming that it doesn't sell. All right, Jeff, you can go to the next. Phase 3, of course, is stabilization and refinance. And the key here is we want to make sure that we are getting to that 90% occupancy. We can go back and get agency debt. We can put a fixed rate on the property, make sure it cash flows. And then we really should, and in most cases we do, get out some capital at that point in time. And then it's kind of a cash flow game. You know, we put our $100,000 in. We're, let's call it 2-3 years in, we hit stabilization, pull 50,000 out, and then we start cash flowing. Normally speaking, if you put 100 grand in, and you get to the stabilization period, you should be able to get about $15,000 to $20,000 a year in cash flow from that capital. Now that capital's increased in value, so it's probably worth about 200,000. But based on your initial investment, it's usually about $15,000 to $20,000 a year. So it's a pretty good deal. Yes, you've got to wait 2 to 3 years with no cash flow while you're doing the development and the building. But once you get to that stabilization point, that's where the cash flow starts. The other thing that we will do is we will give people the ability, if they want to cash out of the project at stabilization. If you know you're the person that says, hey, I just want my upside, I don't worry about the cash flow, that's fine. We'll probably have the ability to cash you out at that point. And then there's other people that are going to say, you know what, I don't want to take any of the risk on the development, but once you're stabilized, you got a beautiful brand new asset and I can cash flow, great, count me in, let's do it. There's going to be some ability to do that at that point in time. I wouldn't count on it, but there probably will be the ability there. And the main challenge for this phase is the interest rate in the debt market. Because again, if interest rates are 9% and the debt market is completely shut down because of COVID or some nonsense like that, then that's definitely going to make this phase more challenging. We don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. I don't think any of us really predicted the last 4 years for sure. So I'm not going to say what will happen, but those are the two biggest challenges on the stabilization phase of this project or of any project. Go ahead, Jeff. All right, so a little about the team. We can kind of skip over this, but I talked about myself and RM Capital, GC Lima Construction. That is a TBD GC. We may or may not use them. They've been helpful with us to get some cost estimates up to this point. We'll obviously take this out for a full bid, which we would do in any type of scenario. And we'll find, well-qualified GCs to come in and do the project. And it really kind of depends on where everybody's at. So without further ado, let's jump into the business plan. So I kind of mentioned this previously, but you basically have 3 different phases here in terms of what's happening. So you've got raw land that goes to fully entitled and permitted. In this case, we're not buying raw land, we're buying entitled land, but it is not permitted. So we're going to finish the permitting process. Once that's complete, then we get a ground break. In this case, our estimated ground break is first quarter of next year. I put January 1st, 2025. That kind of depends on our DRC approval and how that all goes. Groundbreaking goes to construction, which leads to stabilization. And then the third piece of the puzzle here is the cash out refi and the long-term cash flow, which I mentioned just a minute ago. So just kind of replaying some of those facts. Go forward. So again, just to reiterate, the next 6 months, 0 to 6 months, we're going to complete the plans and the permits. That means that we are taking our entitlements that we've gotten from the city, and we're now fleshing those out into thousands of pages of documents that literally line out every single last detail of this project. And it gets approved, and then we can do our groundbreaking. From there, we break ground, we complete the construction of the project. We're assuming an 18-month construction time frame, which is pretty typical for a mid-rise in Florida. And then we anticipate being stabilized shortly thereafter, because we're going to be able to start to rent the property at about 12 months in. And based on the number of units that we have, we think we're going to be able to get it leased up fairly quickly. In fact, our existing market data would tell us that it's taken about 9 months to do a full lease up of a property this size. Excuse me. Okay, so one of the most important things in any property, any deal at any time is understanding the competition. So before I get into the rent comps, I want to talk a little bit about unit size and sort of where things are at in St. Pete. Cost of construction continues to go up. Rental prices continue to go up. Affordability is a major issue in St. Pete, in a lot of areas in Florida. One of the things that we're trying to do with this project is we're going to create value by, yes, having some smaller unit sizes, but we're really shooting for a lower price point on the rental rate. That's kind of the idea here, is that we want to be able to really cater to this, again, I say affordable in quotes, but this affordable market in St. Pete. It's really desperately needed. Again, you can spend $1 million in a condo and you got all kinds of options. But if you want to spend 2,000 or less in an apartment, it's very difficult. So we're going to try to really focus on that market. One of the things that's been challenging the St. Pete in the past is that the price point didn't really drive small units. Well, that was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. A lot has changed in St. Pete. It's going to continue to change. And so we believe that now the smaller units are going to become more attractive because the price point is just so high, and the income levels in general have not kept up with that inflation. So with that being said, if you look at what you're seeing here, you're going to see that an average studio size at our comps is about 508 square feet. The phase one, or well, 2A we're calling it, but the first building that we're building does not have any studios. So everything in our project that we're talking about today, sort of the first building, has a 1 and 2 bed, 1 bedroom and a large 1 bedroom unit. So those are a little bit larger, but compared to the market, they're a little bit smaller. The idea is that we're going to design them more efficiently, and we're going to be able to charge a market or better rent, and that's going to give us a competitive advantage in our leasing phase. And again, at the end of the day, all of this, everything that we're doing is contingent upon that lease up. Because if you have a product that looks great but doesn't lease, well, you just built a $42 million beautiful building that can't cash flow, and nobody wants that. So I want to mention that. You can see the square footages of our comps. Some of them are higher, some of them are lower. Our large 1 bedroom is actually larger than the average. Our small 1 bedroom is a little bit smaller. So again, you can kind of analyze that different ways. Bottom line is we're competitive. We're going to be extremely efficient with our floor plans, and we're going to provide top of the line amenities. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to have a rooftop pool. We're going to have a clubhouse that's up there, beautiful views. So that's what we want to really accent for our residents. Go ahead, Jeff. All right. So location and market, I'm going to hand this over to Danny because even though he doesn't live here, he's got a house in Channelside, right, Danny?
Yeah, Tampa.
There you go.
I picked it up
about.
I picked up that place about 15 years ago, and I've just watched that market just fly, Rob. I talk about this all the time, but I see what's happening in St. Pete right now, and it's just like this is the foundation of the new Tampa. You said Miami. I think it's going to smoke Tampa as well, right? Just because you're also closer to the beach, right? Because in Tampa, you can't get to the beach. Tampa, you have to go to St. Pete to go to the beach. Like, that's the one thing that's annoying about my place, even though it's beautiful. It's like I have to get in the car and I have to drive to St. Pete. That's another reason I want this place, Rob. Anyway, because I love the beach, right? But anyway, Tampa, I'm from Chicago, but it's my second home. We have family down there. We love it down there. And the only reason, we haven't moved down there is because, we have, lots of more family here. But, it's not to say that we won't be down there one day. We'll stop, be snowbirds. But let me go through some of the facts of why Florida, Tampa, the whole market is just top notch, and it's not slowing down, right? So number one, it's the 18th largest metropolitan area, the Tampa, St. Petersburg area. It's one of the fastest growing, Rob mentioned this before, but it's one of the fastest growing MSAs in the country. 70 direct flights across the U.S. St. Pete, there's, I can't, let me minimize this, 26 acres of peaceful, of beaches across Tampa, St. Pete. And if you go south, right, some of the best beaches down south where Rob lives, down in Sarasota. I mean, it's just a beautiful drive, right? We've done the drive, and it's a beautiful coastal drive, whether you go south or north. Obviously, it was named, St. Pete was named one of the top, actually was named #1 beach in the country in 2001. It's actually been top 3 for the last, 20 years. I mean, to go to the nicest beaches in the world, you don't have to leave the country. You just go to St. Pete, or down to the Sarasota area. Tampa Bay area, it's been obviously ranked number 5 best place to live in the United States. Also ranked number 1 for best rent city in Florida, second best on the economic side nationally. So it's just a great market to be in. I know and I see what's happening there right now. And when Rob approached us last year, this was an asset class that we hadn't been involved in, right? Like I said this before, we're very diversified when it comes to commercial real estate, but we've never done a development, especially a Class A and a Class A market that this is going to be in. So, next slide, Jeff, you know, man. Property location. You know what, Rob? You want to dive into this one? You know this area much better than I do. So,
Yeah, sure. Well, I kind of mentioned you can see the interstate there. We're a few blocks from the bay. There's a really cool lake. You can see that kind of middle right of the screen there, Mirror Lake. We are easily walking distance, a block and a half from Mirror Lake. They're redeveloping that area. They're putting in a brand new judicial center building. It's really kind of cool architecture. They kind of took some really good architecture into that. So anyway, just a lot happening. But yeah, I mean, you can see from our rooftop pool deck, it's going to be a pretty cool view. Not bad. I think I might be there once in a while.
the other thing I love about that,
Danny, you might be there too.
The other thing I love about the location is you can actually, it depends if you like to walk, you're gonna be able to walk to the beach,
Yeah.
or you can ride your bike there, right? I mean, you don't have to have a car. You literally don't have to have a car.
That's true.
Because, and I know with what they have going on, and what we'll dive into the next couple of slides, is they're going to have grocery stores, they're going to have restaurants, right? We can dive in that in a little bit, Jeff, if you don't mind, just go to the next page. So, Tampa, number 2 destination for relocation, right? Listen, I live in Chicago, right? I live in Illinois. We are literally, Cook County is the number 1 exodus county in the country, right? For the last 15 years, people have been moving to Florida, Texas, you name it. From a destination standpoint, Rob and Jeff, this has been going on for the last 20 years, right? People are just relocating. People, not just people, companies, right? And this isn't going to stop. One of the top best places to live in the nation. Top 10 places to start a career, right? A lot of young folks have moved down to Tampa. With what's happening in St. Pete, they are going to be moving across the highway there, right? They are going to be, moving not only from, Illinois in the northern states to Florida and Tampa. They're literally going to be moving from Tampa to St. Pete, Rob. So, number 1 housing market in 2002, but I'm sorry, 2022. But this isn't just, not just 2022. This has been going on for the last 10 years, being the number 1 housing market, right? Is in the Tampa area, right? Just look at the home values, right? I mean, literally look at the home value. You want to know how the markets are fluctuating? Look at what homes cost 5-10 years ago and what they cost now, and they've easily doubled. So, next slide.
Yep.
Thank you. It's just what I mentioned before. This is less than 1 mile away, right? So Hines, Tampa Bay, this has been going on for years. A historic development and partnership. This is a $6 billion development that is happening, right, within walking distance to our project, right? They like 2 weeks ago, they just approved the new Rays Stadium, right? Not only are they going to have a Rays Stadium there, right, and with everything else they're going to have, but they're also going to have a concert venue, right? So this is all less than 1 mile away from our project. This historic project will invest more than $6.5 billion. I got the number wrong. It's $6.5 billion in the next 20 years. I would say the bulk of it's going to be, probably within the next 5 to 10. The ballpark is going to have a capacity of 30,000. It's going to be a state of the art ballpark. I don't know if we have a slide in here, but they're going to have hotels. You can go to the next slide. They're going to have hotels. They're going to have, here we go, right? These are all the businesses, but before we dive into the businesses, and you can read them all while I'm discussing what's happening, but they're going to have office, they're going to have retail, industrial, they're going to have some storage. I mean, you name it, they are going to build it, right? You can see what's happening. This is going to be office. That's the new stadium, right? These are going to be hotels. So it's just going to be a beautiful, beautiful development down there. And we want to be at the forefront of it. I can tell you, going back to what Rob said, land all around this project that's happening right now has minimum 2x, 3x, right? You can't touch anything. Everything right here is owned by the city. So you can't even touch that.
Mhm.
Everything around that project that's happening has 2x, 3x on the. That's if you can find it for sale. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah.
So you can find it for sale. These are just all the companies that are down there. And this is just the beginning, right? Just wait till they have that project up and running. There's going to be more Fortune 100, Fortune 200, 300 companies moving down there because a lot of young people are going to be moving down there. And that's typically what they cater to, right? So go ahead. The next slide. I think I just dived into this, right? Medium sale price.
Mhm.
Homeowners. I literally just dived into this, and these numbers aren't slowing down, right? And people just love moving to Florida because there's no state income tax, right? I mean, so if you're a high earner, you want to be there, right? You want to be by the beach, you don't want to be giving giving your money away. So we just talked about this. You can go to the next slide, Jeff. So.
Yeah, so Danny, I appreciate it. I mean, you guys can see the passion that Danny has about the Tampa Bay area. Danny, I'm surprised you don't live down there full time and just
I
move
have
out
a
of
wife.
Chicago.
I have a wife that her decision trumps mine, Jeff. Right, and she's the boss. But more importantly, you know why we don't live down there? Like I said, we have a place in Tampa. We bought it there. We actually own and operate, like I said, in Naples. We own and operate in Lakeland. My father-in-law lives 2 blocks away. My mother-in-law, we take care of them. My father, lives about a mile away. We take care of him, right? So we're here because, the really important things that matter to us is our family. They're here, right? So we're here. If not, I mean, you can. I can tell you one thing. If that wasn't the case, I'd be down there for a couple months out of the year, right? And we're still down there all the time. I go there half a dozen times a year. So it's just a great market. And like I'm telling, Rob lives there, right? So our developer, main asset manager, lives there. He's going to babysit this project. Now we got Fox Group on board, right? So now, and he lives there as well. So it's just, we are literally going to, I mean, this is a legacy asset for us, right? It really is, right? Folks can cash out 2 extra money in 3 years. For us, this is one of those legacy assets that I firmly believe when we refinance and you get your money back and you see the cash flow, you are not going to want us to sell with what's happening there. You're really not, there's certain assets that we pick up right now. I mean, I can tell you where the market's at because, our bread and butter is multifamily. I can tell you multifamily, 80s, 70s built, we're ready to sell those. We're already the market's changing, right? So that's another reason we wanted to get into development. The market is changing. And while everybody's price gouging for these asset class, these value adds, when rates drop, I want to be developing, not just this property. I want to do more developments because while everybody's, right now, I can tell you, we literally about to close on a KC asset and we have more investors wanting this value. We can't find a deal for the life of us that pencils for what we buy because the IRRs are dropping, Jeff. They're dropping, man. You know what I mean? So what do we want to get into? We want to get into development and we want to be developing not just this, but other projects for the next 2 to 3 years. So when the market stabilizes, right, our stuff's up. It's up and running. It's being leased out. It's going to refinance. So we just feel like we're coming into it at the right time. We feel lucky again, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I everything you just said hits home, right? I mean, we are definitely excited about getting into this development opportunity here, right? So just a little bit more on, just a little bit more on the property. We're going to keep this thing going because I know we're pushing on 45 minutes already. 150 units for this one. It's a 16-story. It's got a big parking garage on there. You see rooftop pool. I know this is just a rendering, but rooftop pool. Clubhouse will be up there. Average square foot of the units are 783, one large building. Oops. Some amenities we got, so 9-foot ceilings, granite quartz countertops, pendant lighting, Wi-Fi package. Some of the community amenities, we're gonna have a mail package room, because obviously we know delivering packages every day is an important thing. Some EV charging stations for people, bike parking, garage parking, rooftop pool, gym workout space, valet trash. And then, obviously the construction is going to be stucco exterior, TPO roofing, insulated concrete slab on the grade. It's all going to be vetted by the county, obviously, in the state for, that large hurricane threshold that they have out there as well, too. So very beautiful building inside and out.
Oh, it's going to be it's a legacy asset, Jeff. And really quick too, before we move. So we're coming to the end. We're closing next Friday on phase 1.
Yep.
And I know it's late. We're running overtime, but we literally only have like 300K left to complete phase 1, right? So it's almost coming to a wrap, So we on board.
Yeah, very excited.
I know for a fact it's going to a project like this. It's gonna overfund, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, no, and you're right. I mean, we're closing next week, and that's why we want to do this one, just to kind of push that one little further and get fill those last spots up as quick as possible. Again, 15 different unit types, only because of the structure of the building. Mostly 1 bedroom, some 2 bedrooms, a couple studios thrown in the mix there. The average unit size exceeds 783 square feet. But the average monthly rent, right, is well below market, right? It's $2,600, right? Well below market for the average. And those averages are pushing anywhere between the mid to low threes, right? So if you can, if somebody looks at it and says, oh, okay, gotcha, I can cut out for 50 square feet to pay $2,600 versus, some larger downtown, apartment complex that's a little bit older, that doesn't maybe have all the amenities, and maybe they're on a much different, budget for their job. This is the place they're going to want to live, right? And now we know, obviously, the millennials these days don't want to live in very big, lavish, big, heavy things. They want to travel a lot too and have extra money, extra income, to be able to spend. So I think this fits that price point perfectly in that market especially as well too, right? It's very exciting. Some financials. So we're going to go over this real briefly, and I'll let Rob jump in if he wants to. But the land costs, like I said, we're buying it for 3.4 plus 200 grand of closing costs. The hard costs, which are the construction side, 39 million is what we're budgeting. Soft costs, roughly about 9 million. That's just some different financing and different equity costs. The financing cost is 2.2 million. That would be for any interest and getting obviously some different loans as well. The total in 55 million. So the debt financing on this one, once we get the property stabilized and do the debt, that's roughly about 35 million. Equity, so the pref equity and different common equity investment, 19 million, which equals the total sources of $55 million for this project. Robert, do you want to add anything here, or you want to, or are you good?
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yep, you got it.
Gotcha. So total equity investment, right? So this one is what we wanted to really kind of dive into a little bit for everybody, kind of show you what we brought into the table as well too. So the total equity investment is $19 million, right? We have a pref equity team that Dane's bringing in $7 million already lined up the deal for phase 2.5. Let's call it 2.5, right? So after we close on a property, before we get our construction loan, the equity commitment from the land contribution, right? So when we talked about that earlier, phase 2B, we brought in that equity from that land that Danny and Robert already own into the team, offering 9.5 million of equity into the deal. So it's an amazing investment from the team into this project, right, to help bolster just the equity side and just make us look that much stronger on paper for a bank as well too. So the equity required, so what we're looking to raise is 2.8 million for this phase. Like I said, we're almost done with the raise. So if you have some last minute investments that you're looking for, this could be a good opportunity for you. Total is 19 million, but the total equity provides 65% loan to cost, right? So for the construction loan, that provides us a excellent, like I said, on paper, 65% loan to cost is very conservative, which we think we might be able to get a little more on that as well too. 9.5 contributed for 2B for the other 200 units. And also the GP team are also all personally guaranteeing the land loan. So once we close on the land loan, we're all personally guaranteeing that. So we know this property and this project is a home run when it comes down to it. We're going to go through, Robert, you want to head through the project summary real quick? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think folks going to review this on the replay, and we'll obviously have the PowerPoint in the portal as well. So I'm not going to go through it in detail. I think this in the next couple of slides. There's a lot of detail.
Yeah. If you're a numbers person, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're a numbers person, hey, dig into it. Let's have a conversation. I'm a numbers guy, so I love it. But just kind of high level, the next 1 or 2, 3 slides. Insurance, got a lot of questions about insurance. People saying, oh my gosh, you can't get insurance in Florida. Not true. We actually have gotten quotes for insurance. Those are the numbers we're using in here. They're not crazy. I think it's important for folks to understand that we have to build to a category 5 rating. So an insurance company is not worried about giving us insurance. The big risk in Florida is flood. We are not in a flood zone. So again, insurance is really not an issue for us. Sure, we are in Florida, so there's some factor part of that. The other thing I want to mention is that we are going to leverage the Live Local Act, which Jeff mentioned earlier, to get density bonuses on this property. So that's going to help us financially. And what else did I want to say here? I don't remember what else. You want to skip to another slide? It might prompt my memory.
Yeah, so I can drop in here for our projected
there we go.
Investor returns. This one, if we're equity funding for your investment, $100,000 investment, we are projecting, I said, not year 1, but year 2 will be some minimal cash flows once we get the property stabilized. Year 3, we'll refinance after the property is 90% stabilized. And that's where you'll see a big chunk of your equity come in, like Robert mentioned, 30 to 50% of your equity investment plus cash flows on that, and the remaining of your 15 pref as well. And then that changes over to an A pref after the refi, where we'll have cash flows from year 4, and then year 5 is projected sale. So in that projected sale, you'll receive their pro rata distributions from that, and also any catch ups on your pref as well too. So as you can see, it is a very dynamic property, even from cash flowing into equity and refinances to the sale, to the tune of 35% IAR on your money, as well as equity multiple of 3.13 on this one. So it's a substantial investment, right? So good returns, right? Good projection. These are with our conservative underwriting and conservative projected returns, right? So if it if the market really kind of goes in the shape that we think it's going to be, these numbers could be a lot higher than this, right? So but obviously we're going to be under promising and over delivering when it comes down to this. Let's see. So what else? Timeline, right? So timeline, I know we're getting here close to 8, so I'm going to try to finish up in a couple minutes. But timeline, right? So today's a webinar, August 20th, open for investment right now. I'll say we're very, very small amount that we have left to fund for this to close the deal on August 28th, which is next Wednesday. So, hurry up, talk to your sponsors if you're interested in coming in. January 1st is when our construction will begin. March 1st, we'll start leasing up in 2026 post-construction. And then construction ends in July. So you can see how that kind of timeline moves. And then November 30th will stabilize in 2026 and refinance in end of or beginning of May 2027. So very exciting timeline. Again, I know that sounds like it's far away, but that'll come quick, right? And I think this is poised to be a very, very successful deal. So with that being said, Danny, Robert, you guys want to add anything else?
No, I thank you for your time.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool.
And if you don't, you will regret not getting involved in this one. I'll tell you that. So
let's talk about that. There you go. Right. So you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Here's our contact on the last page. You can scan this with that to go right to the investment portals, right, for the 4 of us. And then we'll go from there. But we appreciate the time, guys. Thank you so much. Have a blessed evening, guys. Robert, Danny, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Jeff.
family.
Thank you. Wrap it up. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, we'll have a good one. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Take care. See y'all.
All right.